Welcome to Centre Stage and this year's Get Live event. First off, I'd just like to introduce Jackson Owens and the drummer for Seth Sentry and Kimbra as well, Stevie Cat Jr. And first off, I just do really want to say a massive thank you to the Taupo District Council and Creative New Zealand. They've helped us put this event on this year, which is really, really cool. AVP, audiovisual people down the road, they've helped us out with a little bit of gear, and Red Cymbals as well, who are sponsoring some cymbals out the back. So we've got a massive crew of people who have just put this together today. So Clint, Paris, Veronica, Chris, Pete, Aaron, Marek, anyone else if I've forgotten names and you've been here, Tiatoro, sorry, you've all been here helping out. It's blimmin' awesome. I really appreciate you all. So yeah, round of applause for everyone that's helped us out for setting this up. The first question's a pretty basic one, is like, when did you start playing the drums?
I had lessons for like probably from third form to sixth form, like once a week for half an hour. Managed to get out of the class, you know. And the drum teacher, he was amazing. He was like a jazz trained guy, but I was listening to metal, so I didn't really want anything to do with what he was telling me. You know, he was telling me about technique and rudiments, and I was like, buh. But my dad, he has a really extensive record collection, right? And everything's funk, soul, fusion, everything. And he likes Steely Dan, like old school. And there's a song of theirs which it's called Asia, and there's this crazy drum part at the end where it's Steve Gadd, you know, one of the greatest drummers of all time, playing this whole section. And I went into there one week, and I was like, I've been listening to the Steely Dan track, you know. And the drum kit at school was terrible, you know. It had been beaten half to death, you know. And I told him, and he just like, his eyes lit up, and he jumped on the kit, and he played this piece like verbatim, you know, note for note, on the worst drum kit you'd ever heard. But it sounded amazing. Like him, with his skill and his knowledge, could make the worst sounding drum kit sound fantastic. And that was the biggest thing I learned from that guy, was like, hone your craft so you can make any situation that you're in, your voice can speak. You know what I mean? If you jump on a pots and pans, like a real great drummer will make that sound good. That was the only teacher I ever had, but it was a big lesson. I just grew up listening to records, learning off. Back in my day, there was no YouTube.
Can't slow the music down.
Nah, bro, you can't watch the licks and be like, oh, okay, cool, man. Like, I just had to listen with the taringas and hoping I was playing it right, you know.
And Jackson, what about yourself, man?
I started from a young age. My dad actually taught me a lot of everything that I know about vocals and just vocal arrangements, delivery of a song. And for me, it's been an ongoing learning thing. When I was younger, I thought that, you know, pushing out these big notes and doing these big runs, and it's all about dynamics, I think, for any singer. So it's not all about just trying to deliver a song and sing as loud as you can, sing as many runs as you can. It's just about delivering a song and really trying to connect to a song. So I learned that through my dad and through my grandparents showing me all these old school classic soul music.
How important is theory in the real world?
Theory, everything got self-taught, everything I learned, watch, that's how I've kind of learned. There was a point where I wish I had learned, because, you know, there's the rudiments, right? There's the basics of like, and then I started learning the stuff where dudes were doing rudiments, and I was like, oh, I can't do that, because I never learned it, right? Like for me, I've never had to read music in a live situation. Sometimes you meet musicians that are like so deep in the theory that they've kind of forgotten about the kind of free soul jamming style of music. Chuck them in a band with a couple of bros and be like, oh, what are we playing? They're like, Not that for every musician who's highly schooled, but for some, I think, you know what I mean? For me personally, I haven't had to. I tried teaching for a little bit, and I wasn't very good. Like my first lesson, I was so worried, you know? I was like, they're like, oh, they're gonna know I'm a fake. They're going to be like, you don't know what you're doing. And, you know, because I didn't. I could only teach him what I know how to do. I wasn't going to sit him down and get him to do paradiddles, because I can't really do paradiddles, you know. I just kind of taught them what I know. And I think as a teacher, sometimes that's the most important part, is like bestowing who you are as a musician on the kids, not just teaching them something that everyone else can teach them.
Yeah, I'm the same. I suppose it's all feel. And I've jammed with a whole lot of musicians that can't read music as well, but they have the feel. And if you have the feel, it's a different type of vibe. And but I'm not saying you shouldn't learn music, because that's so important as well. But you should try and try and develop the feel at the same time, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to take you places.
I always go back to theatre and musicals and things like that. Like when you've got a month to learn a whole theatre show, that's when it can be handy just to understand.
Yeah, for a singer, I feel like you have a good monitor on stage. That's one of the keys. You focus on getting your sound right, making sure you got all your levels right, making sure your vocals are tight. You know your lyrics, you know your notes, and yeah, I still struggle with that. He's laughing because he's like, hey, you don't even know.
The first kit I had was terrible, you know. It was like really cheap, a brand I never heard of. But yeah, if like the bro, like if you hear a singer who's worked on their tone or just naturally has like a beautiful timbre to their voice, doesn't matter if they're singing through a walkie-talkie or something, you're gonna feel it, you know. Like same with the drummer, you know, they can play whatever, but you can straight away tell that they've worked on their craft. Well, unless those annoying people are just so talented, they open their mouth and it's just perfect, and you're like, cool, man.